You are about to commit to a pre-sale condo in BC that cannot be moved into for years. Once you sign, your money is tied up, your timeline is flexible, and your contract is not as one-sided as most buyers think. That is not necessarily a bad thing. Pre-sales can absolutely make sense in this market, but there is a point where most buyers miss completely, and it is usually where things go wrong. Before you walk into another presentation center, you need to understand how this actually works, because what you do in the first 7 days after signing can completely change your outcome. So let's get into it. If you are looking at a pre-sale condo in Vancouver right now, whether you're just starting your search or you have already walked into a presentation center, this is a breakdown I wish every buyer had before they signed anything. Today, we're going through exactly how pre-sales work in BC, what is actually written inside the documents people never read, where buyers quietly lose money without realizing it, and the legal protections most people do not even know exist. I just want to give you clear information so that you can make the best decisions. And before we get into it, if you want more clear breakdowns like this on Vancouver or Burnaby pre-sales and real estate strategies, you can subscribe. And if you're actively looking right now, you can also reach out to me anytime. I help buyers walk through these decisions every single week. Number one, what you are actually buying. Let's simplify this. When you buy a pre-sale condo, you're not buying a finished one. You are buying a future version of it on paper. So you put your deposit down today and the building may not be complete for years to come. This is a huge part of new construction in Metro Vancouver, and developers sell early to help finance construction. And buyers often use it as a way to secure today's pricing before the market moves. On paper, it sounds simple, but the reality is in the details, the contract, the deposit structure, the timelines, the legal terms. And this is where most buyers step in without fully understanding what they're agreeing to. And coming up, there are 2 documents that control almost everything you need to know, and most people just kind of skim over them, never really read the other one. The 2 contracts that control everything. When you buy a pre-sale in BC, you will receive 2 key documents. The first one is the disclosure statement. This is legally required before any unit can be sold. It includes things like the developer's background, building details, estimated strata fees, warranty information, and construction timelines. It's often a 200 to 300 page long document. And here's the reality. Most buyers never read it properly. Even experienced buyers sometimes do not go through it line by line. And the second document is a purchase agreement. This is the actual contract. It outlines your deposit structure, your completion process, your rights, and just as importantly, the developer's rights. Both documents matter because both of them directly impact your money, your timeline, and your legal position in the deal. So let's break down the parts that actually matter. The 7-day right that most people miss. This is one of the most important part of the entire process in BC. Under the Real Estate Development Marketing Act, you do not fully become locked in the moment you sign the contract. There is actually a 7-day rescission period, which means you can cancel the contract within the 7 days. No penalty, no explanation, and your deposit is returned. The timeline starts from either when you signed or when you receive the disclosure statement, whichever comes later. This exists for a reason. Presentation centers, I don't know if you've been to one, but they're designed to create momentum. Beautiful spaces, limited releases, and time pressure, emotional energy, and those feelings are real when you're actually in the presentation center. But signing emotionally and signing confidently are 2 different things. So use that 7-day window properly. Have your realtor or even a lawyer review everything. Talk to your mortgage broker. Actually understand what you are committed to, because once that window closes, your flexibility changes completely. And I'm curious, did you know that this rule exists before watching this video? Let me know in the comments. Number 4, how deposits actually work. Pre-sale deposits are not a one-time payment. In most projects here, they are split into stages. Common structures look like this: $10,000 on signing, so they know that you're serious and committed. 5% at the end of the 7-day revision period, another 5% around 6 months later, and sometimes another 5% 6 months after that. And every project is going to be different. Now, here's what most buyers do not ask. Where does that money actually sit while you wait? In most cases, it is held in trust as required by law. But in some developments, there is a deposit protection structure that allows funds to be used during construction with insurance coverage instead of the traditional trust holding. Either way, you want to know exactly how your deposit is protected. And here is something that catches people off guard. Missing a deposit deadline is very serious. We are talking about penalty interest that can be very high in many contracts. A missed payment can give developers the right to cancel the agreement entirely and keep your deposits. And this is not something you want to casually manage. So make sure you set reminders, have funds ready early, treat every deposit date like a very hard deadline, because it is. And next, this is where a lot of buyers get surprised about timing. Number 5, completion dates are not fixed. This is where most stress in pre-sales comes from my experience. You do not get a guaranteed move-in date. What you get is an estimate. As the building progresses, the developer issues a completion notice when the project is close to being ready. The notice is based on things like city occupancy approvals and strata registration. But here's what most people do not realize. Developers usually have the right to extend timelines, sometimes by a little, sometimes by way more than expected. And that could mean a delay for like 1 to 2 or even 3 years, which means your life plan should never be built around the original estimated completion date. Do not give your rental early. Do not sell your current home too early, or you can negotiate a longer possession or rent back. Or do not lock into financing assuming the first timeline is exact. Wait for confirmed notice before making major decisions, but you do have to get it ready, just not confirm it. Pre-sales reward patience and they punish assumptions. Number 6, what you see is not exactly what you get. Display suites are powerful. They are designed to help you visualize the lifestyle, but they are not a guarantee. Finishes can change, appliances can change, layouts can be adjusted within contract allowances. This actually happens for practical reasons like supply chains issues or engineering changes. Because when the display suite was built and from the time your home actually completes, those items may not be available anymore. But the key point is this: what you are looking at is a representation, not a final promise. What you should focus on instead are the actual specifications in the contract, unit size tolerances and variances, appliance list of what's included. Sometimes the brands can actually change, keep in mind. And what happens if the final product differs slightly? Those details matter far more than the showroom. And if you're early in the process right now, this is actually a great place to start because you still have time to understand everything properly. Number 7, parking and storage surprise. One thing many pre-sale buyers do not actually realize until much later is that your parking stall and storage locker are often assigned very close to completion, which means you don't actually know your exact parking stall and locker that you'll be receiving until way later in the process when you get your keys. And depending on the development, there may actually be rules around relocation or reassignment outlined in the disclosure documents. It is a small detail that most buyers overlook, but definitely worth understanding before you sign. Number 8, strata fees are only an estimate. The strata fees you see in the brochure is an early projection. It is based on estimates made years before the building is finished. By the time you move in, the costs may change. Insurance may be increased, operating costs may have shifted, and shared amenities may impact early phases differently than expected. So the number you see today could look very attractive, but it's not a fixed number for the future. A more realistic approach is to budget higher than the estimate and make sure your mortgage approval accounts for that buffer. This is where most buyers get caught off guard later on. Number 9, selling before completion. So can you sell a pre-sale before it's built? Sometimes, yes, but not freely. Most contracts require developer approval for assignments, and there are also fees involved. Sometimes a fixed percentage, sometimes restrictions depending on timeline, and in some cases, developers can match or reject the assignment. In a slower market where there are still units for sale from the developer, most developers do not actually let you market the home, which restricts the ability to sell it successfully. Because if you assign the unit, you're actually competing with them to get their remaining units sold. If there's even a chance you might need to sell before completion, this is something you really need to understand upfront, not after you sign. Number 10, the team you need. If you are doing a pre-sale purchase, you should not be doing this alone. There are 3 key people you want on your side. First, your own realtor, not the presentation center representative. They work for the developers. You need someone working for you. Secondly, a real estate lawyer. They could review the disclosure statement and the contract terms in detail. Third, a mortgage broker very early in the process. Pre-sale financing is not static. Your approval will often need updates closer to completion, but some banks may be able to lock in that rate for you right now, and also your financing situation right now for the future. Having the right team changes everything. It turns uncertainty into structure, and that is what makes this process manageable. If you're still watching this right now, you already understand more about pre-sales than most people who walk into a presentation center. Most buyers never get this level of context. Keep going, because the last part is where everything connects. Pre-sales are not for everyone. They require patience, flexibility, and comfort with timelines that can shift. But for the right buyer in the right project, they can be a very strategic way to enter into the market. The goal of this video was not to push you toward anything. It was to make sure that you're walking in informed. Because once you understand how this actually works, you stop reacting emotionally to the process and start making decisions with clarity. If you're currently looking at a pre-sale or there's a specific part you want me to kind of break down for you, find me on Instagram and send me a DM. Let's get connected there. And if this helped you, send it to someone who's about to walk into a presentation center. They will probably thank you later. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.